He's been the best. With that, let me pause and see if there's any questions I can at least attempt to answer.
Congressman, I guess to get started, let's look ahead to next year and the likelihood that you may be opposed by the Vice President's son. Any thoughts about that kind of a race and where the two of you might match up there?
Well, yes, in fact, I would expect that to be the case. I, first of all, have a lot of respect for Joe Biden and more importantly, friendship. We worked together for many years, Joe and Tom and I and others have worked together in the best interests of Delaware and developed strong friendships as a result of that. And I like Joe and I like his family a great deal. That is a very political family, by the way, very competent in the art of politics, and I realize when you deal with any of the Bidens, you're dealing with all the Bidens, so that may be the case. I don't know Bo as well, but obviously I respect him too, and my hope is that in Delaware we can have the kind of campaign that people can be proud of, and regardless of who is elected, people will say, well, we elected a good person, but the other person ran a good campaign as well, and as a result, Delaware is better served for it. So I hope that's the way it will come out. But I don't have any illusions that this will be easy street. I realize this would be a very difficult election, and I'm sure the other side will be thinking the same thing. But that's what elections should be all about if they're run properly. So yeah, I have it well in mind that is very likely to be the case. Yes. Well, of course, those things are always a concern. You're referring to my bad knees, I assume, and I worry about them too. I don't run as much as I used to or whatever. But I did have a health problem, I guess, about 3 years ago. I had what was defined by doctors as a minor stroke. Fortunately, I was left unaffected by it, and it was sort of unusual in the way it occurred, so the likelihood of it reoccurring is somewhat remote. And it slowed me down for a couple of weeks, but it was in the middle of an election, and I went ahead and got elected, and I've been serving ever since. I have close to 100% voting record in the Congress of the United States. I would imagine the average workday is at least 12, if not more hours. That doesn't include the weekends, which usually have all kinds of commitments, which are another 8 to 10 hours or whatever. And I've worked extremely hard since then. Obviously, I've seen doctors. I have no health problems that I know of that would be a liability as far as either being in this race or going into the future are concerned. So yes, you do think about those things and you have to face it and answer to it, but I think there's a full clearance in that area. Well, that's a good question. I think today because it was a function of making the decision about when to do this, and we made the decision in final form about 9 days ago, as a matter of fact. I think it was last Sunday, in terms of when we would do this. Obviously, it's a function of getting in the race. Actually, this is the earliest I've ever announced for any office. I usually try to wait sort of to the end and then make my announcement. So this one is a little earlier than usual, but I understand what Senate races are. They involve raising a lot of money. They involve getting people together and rallying around, and both in Delaware and throughout even parts of the country. And so it takes more than my House races have, or even my governor's races perhaps did. So as a result, we felt once the decision was made, it was time to get out and to get it going. And obviously, we knew Bo was coming back from Iraq, and by the way, I give him tremendous credit for his service there. And I didn't want to make the announcement until that was over and he was successfully back and on the ground.
How much different, though, Congressman, is the race really for U.S. Senate? I mean, it is a statewide race. So has been every one of your congressional races. So has every one of your gubernatorial races. How much different is running for the Senate in Delaware?
Well, that's a good question, and you might argue that it's not any different than running for the House in Delaware. It is statewide, as you've rightfully pointed out, and as we all know. But the bottom line is that there is a heightened awareness about a Senate race. That becomes very important to both political parties. I would expect the political parties to get involved in a race like this. You may have, outside interest doing advertising and all that kind of thing. So as a result, there's a different feel to it. In addition, I would imagine, be it Beau Biden or another candidate, the Democrats will have a good candidate who will make it a very competitive race. And so as a result, it takes a lot of preparation, if you will. There's a certain sameness to it, and there's a certain difference to it. You may rest assured I will be at the Apple Scrapple Festival, and I will be at the Delaware football games and the various other events throughout the state to make my case known. I'm sure the joint appearances will be mostly the same or whatever, but there's a significance to this race that perhaps exceeds some of my House races. And also, I would expect that whoever runs on the other side will raise a substantial amount of money and do a lot of advertising, which should make a lot of employers and people here very happy before it's all said and done. And we'll have to do the same.
If you do go up against the younger Biden, what do you see as some of your advantages and even disadvantages in that kind of a race?
Well, my advantages are obviously my experience and not just experience, but experience with achievement. That goes back over a lot of different offices I've held, both in the state of Delaware and in the Congress of the United States. We have all kinds of papers on that in terms of what I've been able to do, and I think that's going to be important. I also believe that my work ethic and habits are as high as anybody who's ever run for office in Delaware, and that will continue, and that should be an advantage. I also have many supporters and friends throughout the state, and that's tremendously helpful as far as that's concerned. Beau has his youth, which I'll envy, obviously, but I can't do anything about that. He has his service in the National Guard, which, as far as I know, is very admirable, and his record as an Attorney General, and obviously the Biden name and family. So he obviously has a lot of assets too. So if he were to be the candidate, I would think we both could list assets, and we'll both probably be reluctant to list our deficiencies, but we'll point out each other's deficiencies at some point too. Any questions? Well, let me just close by thanking everybody. I would like to thank some of these folks who are here. We didn't tell anybody to come here, by the way. We just made a few phone calls that we were going to be doing this, and they were here. They are good people who've been extremely supportive of me over the years, and for that, I cannot thank them enough. I look forward to working with the Republican Party. I look forward, by the way, to getting a good candidate for the House of Representatives, which I have no announcements about today, from Delaware on the Republican side. And my hope is that together we have a year in which we can be extremely proud, and then we can go sailing off on the Kalmar Nickel, which we did not stage, by the way. But thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you.